Graduates, you may be seated. Welcome, everyone. I'm Aaron Schubach, the head of Santa Fe Prep. Members of the class of 2025, parents, relatives, trustees, faculty, and staff, welcome to our 58th commencement ceremony. A special welcome back to our keynote speaker, Rebecca Weiner, a member of the class of 1995. Grace Canfield, our class speaker, and Zoe Marquez, our valedictorian, will address us later in the program. Also with me today is Jenny Kaufman, class of 94. Chair of Santa Fe Prep's Board of Trustees, and Ashley Satterthwaite, Assistant Head of School. Santa Fe Prep's Board of Trustees are entrusted with the governance of this 61-year-old college preparatory school, Breakthrough Santa Fe, and the Davis, New Mexico Scholarship. And our trustees are proud of today's graduates and the organization's broader work in our community and state. Trustees, would you stand to be recognized? Thank you for your service. I'd like to afford a special word of recognition to Michaela Court, who has completed her term of service this year. Thank you, Michaela, for all you've done for us. Faculty and staff of Santa Fe Prep, would you please stand for a moment? On behalf of our students, graduates, and parents, thank you for your inspired and dedicated work and mentorship of our students. As a proud parent of one of today's graduates, I hope no one finds it self-interested that I begin our ceremony by recognizing the parents of graduating seniors. We, the educators who are lucky enough to work with your children, recognize you as their first teachers, first coaches, first advisors, and most committed partners and advocates. All of us here at Prep have hoped that they would listen to you when they stopped listening to us, and listen to us when they stopped listening to you. Taking a look at our graduates, it's clear you have much of which to be proud. Graduates, would you stand for a moment and give your family a round of applause? On behalf of last night's jam-packed baccalaureate audience, I'd like to thank you, graduates, for reaffirming our faith in humanity. You hit every note and nailed every line. Thank you for sharing your music, poetry, compositions, and humor with us last night. Bravo. I remember meeting most of you for the first time when you were in 8th grade, about 10 feet from where I'm standing now, checking in morning COVID forms with Chris Chakers. That's when I learned that both conveniently and confusingly, 11% of you are named Lily or Ethan. At the risk of inflating your healthy self-confidence into something more, I knew right away that the class of 2025 had main character aura, as Inho would say. And it's true, this year we had 6 National Merit Scholar semifinalists, more than 10% of the class. Amongst you are multiple district champions, state champions, and school and state record holders. Speaking of main character aura, our drama department has been on an incredible run. We've been nominated for Best Musical Production in New Mexico 5 years in a row, and many talented thespians are graduating today. I'll skip over the drama and the stresses we wouldn't have had without you because it's a formal occasion and it makes my remarks much shorter. These achievements are the results of you finding agency and excellence and, as you shared with us last night, considerable joy. Though your work here is done, you'll take the habits and skills that produce these great outcomes with you when you leave prep. Ceremonies today are difficult to wrap your head around. They're both a complete cliche and alarmingly real. The truth is that, like the green river flowing down Desolation Canyon, life consists of some one-way thresholds that once we cross, we can't truly return. Because if and when we do return to run the river again, or if we're lucky enough to have you return to Santa Fe Prep, you will do so as a different person. Leaving this familiar place where you have been seen and been successful, and soon leaving your parents' home, is a massive transition. Unexpectedly to me, the months after my high school graduation were a very low period in my life. Yes, I graduated from high school and been admitted to college, and I missed my parents, who, by the way, are here in the audience to see their grandson graduate. My first year of college, I struggled to find roommates and classmates who shared my values, an issue complicated by the fact that I wasn't sure what my values were. And I missed my teammates from my high school sports teams. Also, everything in my college dining hall tasted like oatmeal, except the oatmeal itself, which tasted like dish soap. I grew up in Seattle, which, like Santa Fe, is a place where great food and art are on every street corner. And I missed the spicy Korean barbecue from my neighborhood restaurant like you're gonna miss green chili next year. Worse, top 40 music was terrible. And every time I turned on the radio, CNC Music's Factory's Gonna Make You Sweat was droning on like the chorus from a Greek tragedy. And I hate that song. And I was sweating a little bit. Self-evidently, that was a long time ago, and I'd forgotten about all these feelings until Gordon Zhang's excellent senior speech, one of many I might add, reminded me of how excited I was then and how vulnerable I felt then. Also, on the senior trip, I heard two students having a brief conversation about Frank Lloyd Wright. Isn't that a very Santa Fe prep thing? That conversation reminded me of the famous architect's theory of compression and expansion. When you enter a Frank Lloyd Wright building, you enter a tight, uncomfortable space, like going into a cave. The psychological tension that's created abates as you take a few steps into a high-ceilinged room, like a literal version of the prisoner escaping from Plato's cave. Compression and expansion, stimulus and response, bewilderment and epiphany, love and heartbreak. These cycles exist, and they're essential. While you're physically compressed right now, you're actually in a period of psychological and emotional expansion, predicated on the work that got you here today. Undoubtedly, this is a mountaintop for you to climb, but it's far from the only one that you will celebrate. This dichotomy, compression and expansion, elegantly reminds us that post-traumatic growth is essential. As the physicians in the audience can confirm, Nietzsche and Kanye West were wrong. What does not kill you is not guaranteed to make you stronger. But what does not kill you might make you wiser, and it will make you uniquely you. If we stayed at room temperature our entire lives, we would be like unfired clay, fragile and dull. Emotional learning happens only at high temperatures, like a glaze oxidizing in the heat of a kiln. Though it's much maligned, stress is actually a renewable energy source. Difficult experiences, though painful, can create energy that can be harnessed. And, counterintuitively, in a world where we are often advised to practice self-care, by detaching, we're happiest and healthiest when we attach ourselves to other people and important causes. All of us live in an America that's experiencing profound compression. Whether you're for it or against it, it's not an exaggeration to say every element of American politics, constitutional law, administrative oversight, economic regulation, and public norms are undergoing a profound state of change. We cannot help but be part of this process. And if we focus on enduring principles, fairness, integrity, and respect, we can take this energy and rebound forward in the directions that we find fair and just. And each of us and all of us can and will move forward. The period of sweaty insecurity that I described in my first year of college didn't last forever, but it led me to redefine myself as a student, to be more outgoing, and to apply for a job as a teaching intern, which would become the central interest of my life. Recently, a friend introduced me to the image of a nautilus, an organism that knows the correct time to build a new chamber of its radial shell. Like a nautilus, first uncomfortably and later gratefully, I moved on, finding the next chamber of myself because I had outgrown the old me, as you have done so beautifully today. Class of 2025, congratulations and thank you for your impressive impact and contributions to Santa Fe Prep. On behalf of our faculty and staff, we celebrate you and wish you well. It is my great honor to introduce our commencement speaker, Rebecca Weiner, valedictorian of Santa Fe Prep's class of 1995, 30 years ago, almost to the day. Rebecca knows a great deal about growing up in Santa Fe and making the most of the opportunities here at Santa Fe Prep and beyond, first at Harvard College, then at Harvard Law School. She also knows a great deal about confronting complicated challenges. Rebecca directly oversees the New York City Police Department's Intelligence and Counterterrorism Bureau, managing investigative, analytical, policy, and engagement efforts across the domains of counterterrorism, criminal intelligence, violence mitigation, infrastructure and event protection, and geopolitical risk. Rebecca and her team lean into the hardest challenges I can imagine on an hourly and daily basis, protecting civil liberties and public safety in a never-ending game of three-dimensional chess spread across the 5 boroughs of New York, the country, and the world. Protecting the physical safety of our financial and cultural capital and its inhabitants is a tremendous accomplishment. In doing so, Rebecca and her team are no small part of the work that allows America to be the vibrant, pluralist tapestry of people and ideas that we aspire to be. Please welcome Rebecca Weiner back to Santa Fe Prep.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for that lovely introduction, Erin. It is so meaningful to me to be here today. As Erin said, 30 years almost to the day since we were all standing here together as the class of 1995 about to graduate, and to see in this audience so many people, family members, beloved friends for so many years. I hope you all have this opportunity to experience this. And often when I'm at a lectern like this in front of a crowd, I begin with these words: there are no specific credible threats to this event. And hopefully it's true. So the event in question might be a parade, it might be the New York City Marathon, the US Open, or New Year's Eve in Times Square. A big part of my job, and that of the 1,500 uniformed and civilian men and women that I am lucky enough to lead at the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Bureau, is to ensure to the extent humanly possible that those events, or events like this, are safe. And as importantly, to reassure the public about that too. Now, some of that entails deploying officers with machine guns and bomb-sniffing canines to guard the event itself. Some of it means looking out in advance for those who might want to use other people's celebrations to violently advertise their own extreme, nihilistic, or pathological ideas. We call that intelligence work. As a result, I tend to experience special events very differently from normal people. I'm the person who spends much more time looking at the spectators than at the sport. But to be clear, I don't see any specific or credible threats to this event. What I see is a class full of bright young people, some of them the children of close friends of mine, college roommates, people I've known for decades, heading off into the world full of promise from the school that forged me into who I am today. But still, I do see threats. Threats to you, the class of 2025 in particular. And watching you enter this arena, I'm not sure how much you need this advice, but I'm going to give it to you because, as Aaron mentioned, there may be moments that you really do. I worry about these threats more than the ones I'm paid to focus on every day. And lately, the terrorism and the targeted violence that my team fights every day, whether it takes the form of someone who wants to ram their truck into a crowd of New Year's Eve revelers in New Orleans in the name of ISIS, or shoot a grocery store full of people because they're not white, or kill Israeli diplomats outside a young professional's mixer. That violence tends to be rooted in the sense that our institutions of governance have failed us so deeply that the only way to effect change is through bloodshed. And of course, this impulse, warped and subverted as it is nothing new, and most people who lose faith in institutions don't resort to violence, thankfully. But that loss of faith takes other forms too, forms that are less extreme, but also far more common. And what is new, I believe, is that young people like you are at risk of losing the idealism that for generations has propelled them into careers of service. There's a famous line from Yeats: "The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity." And that's not you. But the threats to you aren't necessarily threats of violence. They're threats of apathy, of disaffection, and disengagement. I worry that you'll lose faith in the institutions that are foundational to our society and that are increasingly under assault, that you won't even consider a life of public service. And I'm not just talking about joining the NYPD, although I hope you will, or the CIA, although I hope you will, or enlisting in the military. I'm talking about working for the government at all. And it's easy to despair about what's happening in the world right now. And here at home, chaos, cynicism, cruelty, evisceration of institutions, suppression of dissent worldwide. It's easy to descend into overwhelm. Your social media feeds and your algorithms want and train you to. And admittedly, as we've seen over the last few years, especially since the pandemic, the institutions that my friends and I took for granted when we graduated have certainly shown the world their soft underbellies these last few years. But the fact is, the world you're entering as you cross this threshold today needs you more than ever. We have far more problems: multiple wars, terrorism around the world, global pandemics, mass migration, than we did when I was your age. I grew up thinking about climate change as a future problem. Now it's in full swing, as anyone who lives in New Mexico can attest. These problems require governments to solve, and governments require the best and brightest to solve them. They need you, and you need them. Now, 30 years ago, nearly to the day, I sat where you're sitting. It was right in the middle of the golden era of Francis Fukuyama's End of History. 6 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and 6 years before 9/11 started the forever wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. It was an era of optimism and also, admittedly, some complacency. Winning the Cold War cast all of our governmental and cultural institutions in a comforting light. The stock market kept doubling, jobs were plentiful, and the World Wide Web had only recently entered the public realm. My grandmother, who was the first person I knew to have a computer, had a new Mac, but gaming still happened on laminated cardboard or in arcades, and it wasn't talked about on Discord. When my dad was on call and the hospital had to reach him, they'd beep him on his pager, and he'd have to find a telephone plugged into a wall to call back. There was no Google, and when people talked about a cloud, they meant a puffy thing in the sky, not the place where your compromising spring break pictures, hopefully none of you have those, live forever. At that point, I had no particular desire to work for the government, much less the police. My only interaction with law enforcement was when they broke up our parties, or once when I got pulled over speeding home to make my curfew. I told the officer that I had been trying to negotiate a later curfew with my mom because it would be safer and there would be fewer cars on the road. And he shook his head in exasperation and told me to go to law school. He let me off with a warning. In those days, I loved tarot cards, Waiting for Godot, and the band Ministry. I was curious, and I didn't particularly love rules or authority. And in all of those ways, I haven't changed too much. Going through old papers recently, I came across the valedictorian address that I gave on this day, maybe at this very podium, although it looks newer, 30 years ago. The pages were brittle and yellow, remember, no cloud. And my grandmother, the only person who kept a copy, had conveniently dated it in her unmistakable handwriting, June 3rd, 1995. I only dimly remember writing or delivering that speech. Composed without the benefit of ChatGPT or internet research, it was an allegory. As I described it in my introduction, it was a tale of whimsy and myth, fantasy and lore. It was about a little boy who visited 3 oracles in search of wisdom: a mathematician surrounded by clouds of theorems in the sky, a wrinkly man who lived on the sea floor amidst angelfish, eels, and stingrays, and a jaded urban bureaucrat. It was the existentialist version of Dr. Seuss's Oh, the Places You'll Go, written by a teenager, which I, of course, was. Now, the mathematician in the sky made statements like, "The universe never ceases to fluctuate, be it by large degrees or small." The man in the sea opined somewhat ominously that the trials and tribulations of each individual are just minor blips on the vast continuum of history. The world won't stop for you, nor will it wait for you to catch up. Catch the wave as it crests, and let it carry you where it will. But it was the 3rd oracle that caught my attention. As the little boy in my story emerged from the beautiful ocean with its colorful fish and stepped onto the, quote, hot asphalt jungle of the city, surrounded by honking snarls of angry traffic, around him humanity seethed, which is, for any of you who have spent time in New York City recently, about as on point a description of life there as I could possibly have imagined at the time. 3 decades later, said this oracle, I've learned that the system gives you patience, endurance, and humility. And I must admit, it was a little eerie to read these words 30 years later, as though my 18-year-old self knew that I would become that jaded urban bureaucrat, explaining that, as I wrote at the time, cynics have no place here. The only way change is made is through idealism. And I was the first to admit to all my friends in those halls right up there that I was doing tarot with, that I really had no idea what I was doing, but still, something had given me a glimpse of my future. So for me, where did that idealism come from? It wasn't necessarily innate, but it came from crisis. My husband, Drake, who is up there in the crowd, and I had just moved to Paris from New York City for a year abroad before I was going to start law school. I'd been working at a think tank in New York City called the Council on Foreign Relations and got a job at an international institution called the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in Paris. It was a great year to spend away, traveling the world, but 3 days into our experience, something profound happened. As I was washing my clothes at a laundromat in the 6th arrondissement with my dear friend Annie Polk, who may be in this audience today, and with Drake, I saw on the greasy little television screen footage of the first plane hitting the World Trade Center, and then, moments later, the second. That night, we wandered the streets, devastated and stunned, with no idea what was to come. And it turns out that the end of history that Fukuyama had promised was more like an intermission. Like so many others of my generation, 9/11 propelled me into my career. Crisis can be very clarifying in that way. And after law school, I decided to leave behind the lofty world of position papers and colloquia and roll up my sleeves. And that doesn't mean that I approved of or was comfortable with everything that was going on in the war on terror. Working at the intersection of intelligence, policing, and counterterrorism is deeply fraught at the easiest of times. And a lot of what the United States did in response to 9/11 was, as President Barack Obama called it, maybe somewhat dumb, But someone has to try to stop the dumb things from happening, and that takes passionate intensity too. And a lot of that work was profoundly brave. What I realized then, and it's truer now than ever, is that it's easy to turn your back or disengage or rage against the machine, destroy things, than it is to build or redirect them. It's easy to wring your hands and admire problems from the sidelines, but it's infinitely more gratifying to try to solve them, even when you fail. And for me, that's what working inside the proverbial system has offered. The chance to try to solve some of the most urgent, the most consequential problems of the day. And there are many. Working alongside colleagues who are extraordinarily good at their jobs, who feel like family, and who share a sense of perspective and a sense of humor that is honed by years of seeing both the best and the worst of humanity. And Aaron, I'm going to take back to my team that stress is a renewable energy source when I go back. So we have a lot of it. So what will your clarifying crisis be? Who knows? There's plenty to choose from, of course. But if you take one bit of advice from me today, it's to run toward the problem, not away from it. And I'm going to say that again, because that is one of the most important things that you can hear. Run toward the problem, not away from it. And actually, another bit of advice. Get off your phones. Don't be controlled or weaponized by the algorithms. That's not hyperbole, it's happening, and you don't have to let it. And the third point is that... Good. I appreciate that very much as someone who spends a lot of time looking at threats from the online environment. The third point is that life is a team sport, and you know this because you're the product of this incredible team. I wouldn't be where I was today without so many people. My late grandmother, my late mother, whose influence and inspiration are with me every day. My dad, who has supported and pushed me into all of the successes that I can claim. My husband, Drake, who I have boundless love, admiration, respect, appreciation for, more than words can say. And my two boys, Damien and Zavi, who are 7 and 10, who have offered me already more wisdom than I could imagine, and their combined age is only 17. All right? When I first arrived at Harvard, Santa Fe felt very small and far away, and prep felt very far in the background. I wasn't convinced at the time that I could hack it. Partly it was because I failed the first test that I took, the dreaded quantitative reasoning requirement. And Dave and Sarah, who are up there in the audience, know exactly what I'm talking about. I called home and I harumphed to my dad. Just because you liked it here doesn't mean I'm going to. But I soon realized that this school had prepared me perfectly for the experience. I was ready academically and I passed the QRR on my second try. But more importantly, I was ready intellectually because this school had given me all the tools that I needed. They're important tools, and they're not necessarily universal in high school. Prep had taught me to be open-minded, creative, and confident in my instincts, to follow my interests and be open to opportunity. And you've had great fortune to spend these formative years, not just with the school, but with an extended family, with a community in Santa Fe. I grew up, as I said, with so many people in this audience, dear friends, for years. I was raised by so many other people in this audience. You have the tentacles that have sustained this community all here in these walls. And now we're passing our batons to you to take it forward. I am confident that your wisdom, that your engagement, that your passion for what you do is going to eclipse all of ours. I know that for my 2 sons, that will be true. You're incredibly talented. You've been well prepared. Your futures are bright. The world needs you. And I know that you're all going to answer the call in your own individual ways. You just have to remember this very simple mantra, which my most wonderful mother taught me. It's paraphrased from a commencement speech, that Admiral Bill McRaven, who's retired commander of United States Special Operations Command, gave in 2014. And I used to recite it to my boys every day when they were small, and maybe some of you have heard it. First, make your bed. Very important. Second, stand up to bullies. Lift up the downtrodden, and never, ever give up. So I look forward to hearing from you in 30 years. Thank you for everything that you've already done. Thank you to all the parents, to all the faculty, to all the folks that make this community such an incredible crucible for the future of making everything better. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rebecca. Each year at commencement, we recognize a faculty member for extraordinary service. The J. Shelton Award for Teaching Excellence is awarded to a teacher selected by the head of school with significant input from the senior class and faculty. The award celebrates inspiring and outstanding teaching and includes a grant of $10,000 from an anonymous donor. Let me paint you a picture of this year's recipient of the J. Shelton Award. Most of the important things that happen at Santa Fe Prep are loud. We're a school filled with young people. But some of the best things that happen here are quiet. And for the last 6 years, this year's recipient has been quietly making beautiful things happen for our students and faculty. We sometimes think of the meme building where our fine arts program is housed as an island apart from campus. But we don't mean that in a negative way. It's an island of creativity, intentionality, reflection, color, and perspective. This highly respected art teacher, department chair, and Danny Mass-run TAP leader is esteemed by his students for the technical expertise, support, and calm that he brings to their artistic practices and to their lives. The presence of this teacher in the meme means many things, but most fundamentally it means that our students don't have to choose between attending a college preparatory school and an arts school. It means they can go as far as they want in their artistic practices, whether that means fulfilling their requirements or developing a comprehensive and competitive portfolio for art school. Matt Mullins. Matt Mullins, I would like to add further detail to this portrait by mentioning that the members of the nominating committee are extraordinarily impressed with your work ethic, your kindness, and the generosity you've shown Santa Fe Prep. I am profoundly proud to honor you as a recipient of this year's J. Shelton Award. Well done, and thank you.
It's my pleasure to now award the Elrington Award. And this award honors the memory of Brigadier General Mordaunt Elrington, whose honesty, determination, generosity, and leadership were legendary during his distinguished military career and in his long tenure here at Santa Fe Prep. The general taught history and Latin, was assistant head, and head of the middle school. This scholarship award is presented to a graduating senior who exemplifies those traits we associate with the general. It is my honor to present this year's award to a student whose poise, steadfastness, and humility shine in every endeavor. She approaches challenges, whether mastering new technologies or navigating unexpected hurdles, with grit and a graceful maturity consistently rising above adversity. Her determination to do and become her best is matched by her generous spirit and unwavering commitment to her peers and community. Respected for her warmth and approachability, she has been an invaluable supporter of the Breakthrough Program, inspiring those around her through both action and example. A pinnacle moment of this year came when, at the end of her final basketball game at Prep, she stepped off the court with just minutes left for the last time and into a heartfelt embrace with her sister, who then took her place to finish out the game. A leader of her family and peers, she cultivates deep bonds, and her impact is undeniable and lasting. Although she often deserves the spotlight, she never seeks nor wants it. Well, it's shining on you now. Congratulations, Jasmine Zermenyo. I now get to introduce the Douglas Schwartz class speaker. Selected by her peers, Grace Canfield is the 2025 Douglas Schwartz class speaker. In the words of one of her teachers and college counselor, Grace is a young woman who brings significant intellectual firepower to her studies and someone who wants to leave the world a more beautiful and cared for in her wake. The University of Washington will benefit from her presence this fall. Congratulations and welcome, Grace.
The first time I thought about graduating from high school and leaving home was at my brother's Santa Fe Prep commencement. I was sitting right over there with my parents, watching him in his chair, listening and waiting. I realized then that at the end of the summer, he wouldn't be living in the same house with me anymore, and it really freaked me out. What scared me even more was to think that one day I'd be doing this, living on my own without my parents. Since beginning my own education at Prep, I've thought about graduation a lot. For a while, I was so worried about getting into some super prestigious college. As Prep students, we can place too much value on where we end up going to school. It can be tempting to pick extracurriculars based on how they'll look on an application, instead of how passionate we really are about them. Our high school class experiences are designed for us to eventually embody Prep's portrait of a graduate. We all know that portrait because it's plastered to our hallways, proudly displayed on the school's website, and we even had to prove in our SIP-TAP presentations how we demonstrated its 6 qualities. It's clear that Prep does a great job of setting us up for success in the professional world. After all, Prep means prepared. But spending these formative years together means we've influenced one another's development in profound ways that make our group distinct. So I'd like to introduce you to some of the members of the 2025 class and the distinct qualities they each represent. At the beginning of 7th grade, our class traveled to 100 Elk. While others played games like Gaga Ball, I spent the majority of my trip hunched over a trash can in the main lodge, barfing up the all-you-could-eat buffet from the night before. Anna Karen Chavez had the pleasure of witnessing this while she iced a freshly sprained ankle, one of the many she'd come to have over the years. And instead of being totally grossed out, Anna dealt me into an intense game of Go Fish while we laughed uncontrollably about the whole thing. That night, Anna and I gathered with the rest of our classmates to watch a montage of photos from the trip. The first time I felt a part of the Prep community was looking at those pictures. I don't totally know where it came from, but the natural care we had shown each other was what made me feel like I belonged. On the ride home, we all watched Forrest Gump, and Larry loudly played Sweet Caroline as the bus pulled into the Prep circle. While I didn't know you all very well yet, I could tell we were going to take good care of each other. Let's move forward 2 years to 9th grade, when most of us were so caught up in trying to get others to like us that we pretended to be someone we weren't. While Liliana Putnam was quiet in classes and around the quad, she was the first of us to show up to school wearing jorts, well before they became trendy. Although Liliana was outwardly shy, it was clear to me she had a certain dormant confidence. The first time Liliana and I hung out alone, she quickly stepped out of her shell, filling almost every silence with quick jokes and laughter. She was the one who took me to Savers to buy my first pair of jorts. Liliana didn't change herself to fit in, although that might have been easier, and she gave me the courage to be myself and do the things that scared me. Together, we found our voices and expanded our circle of friends. My classmates did the same, forming deeper relationships with our peers and getting more comfortable authentically expressing themselves without worries of judgment. And once we stopped trying so hard to be liked, we started to have the time to explore the things that actually mattered to us. Now picture yourself in the Kiva room, the class so small that if a pencil drops on the floor, everyone's interrupted. It's impossible to hide in the back row. Every student has to participate, but Lily Devon takes it to the next level. Lily asks a lot of questions, not for a participation grade, but because she honestly wants to learn more. If you've ever had a class with Lily, you know that she can connect almost any lesson to the current event she's been following, and she will certainly raise her hand and ask our teachers what they think. Sure, there were times when we wouldn't finish our work in class due to one of Lily's tangents, and I'd worried about my lack of sleep the next day. But there were many more times when she'd make a connection I'd never considered before that completely changed the way I thought about something. Lily is stubborn and fights for opportunities to engage with what she cares about, and inspires the rest of us to do the same. As we got older and gained more academic independence, we stopped writing essays about things to impress our teachers, but instead about the things we were actually invested in. Lily is just one example of how the curiosity of a fellow student can and has inspired our love of learning. I think what makes prep so special is the small class discussions where you're forced to share what you're really thinking. These spaces are where true learning happens. Not when you're memorizing someone else's ideas, but when you're all genuinely curious and figuring it out together. This lesson was also particularly important for me as I stepped out of the classroom and into the gym. This fall, I rejoined the volleyball team after stepping away for 2 years. I watched as my serves just kept hitting the net while everyone else's sailed over. Many practices I wondered if I should just quit, but Maddie Blos always found me and reminded me that she had complete faith that eventually I'd ace it. She also said that the best players weren't necessarily the ones on the court. They were the ones who could transform the resignation on the bench to enthusiasm, even when they weren't receiving playing time themselves. Maddie showed up for me every day with a pep talk and a smile. If you asked her for notes for a class you missed, needed a calculator because you left yours at home, or found yourself alone at the back of the lunch line, Maddie would be there without a question. As high school got harder, friends like Maddie, who were consistently there, showed us how to support each other. We stopped seeing someone else's success as the absence of our own and learned to celebrate each other's wins as a collective. Even when our basketball team was down 30 points, my classmates would consistently cheer just as loudly for the freshman getting subbed in as one of Morgan's buzzer beaters from across the court. And it was that unconditional support that changed the way we thought about failure and embarrassment. Going to such a small school like Prep can often feel like all of your actions are on display. When you do something embarrassing, within the hour, it feels like almost everyone in the school has heard. The fear of being judged can be all it takes for you to sanitize yourself and create a pristine outward image. But there's something that happens when you become the oldest kids on campus, where suddenly you just don't really care if someone thinks you're weird. Asha Davis joined our class last year, but has seamlessly folded into our community. At assemblies, we get to watch Asha step on stage with Ben, playing the recorder and creating messes of confetti in an effort to excite and engage the upper school in the most mundane announcements. Asha's display of humor and what I can now recognize as bravery have spurred an important shift in myself. I've learned that being embarrassed is truly a choice. Coughing in a silent room, singing the wrong lyrics to a song, or tripping and falling in front of everyone. Each of these embarrassing moments can be turned into something funny. As a class, we've realized that not wearing the ridiculous outfits to Spirit Week actually makes you super lame, and that deciding to be a part of the collective embarrassment is way more fun. Like prom this year, we actually danced and laughed instead of just jumping up and down in a circle and then leaving early to complain about how stupid school dances are. We've let go of our fears, stopped performing for some imaginary audience, and are allowing ourselves to enthusiastically share who we really are, something I came to especially appreciate throughout my senior year. The morning of our senior sunrise hike, a tradition at prep to commemorate the seniors' final day of classes, I set my alarm 5 minutes before I had to leave, 4:50 in the morning, and grumpily got ready. When I opened my car door and got inside, I heard the most horrifying whisper from the darkness behind me. Grace. I shrieked and launched out of my seat, only to realize that it was Adnan Mufla, who'd woken up insanely early to squirt me with his water gun, eliminating me from our game of senior assassin. While I initially felt betrayed and sad that I'd lost, I figured that if Adnan was committed enough to wake up that early just for assassin, then he deserved to get me out. About an hour and a half later, I stood at the summit of Sun Mountain, looking around at my classmates, and realized that somewhere along the way, we'd made an unspoken commitment to stick together. From letting Miss Comstock know your friend was running a few minutes late for the 3rd time this week and begging her not to give them another tardy, losing sleep to help someone study for a big test, or proofreading my graduation speech well after we'd finished school. We are committed to showing up for each other, even when it's inconvenient. The 2025 class has become a chosen family. Anna showed us care, Liliana authenticity, Lily Devon curiosity, Asha fearless enthusiasm, Maddie consistency, and Adnan commitment. But everyone contributed. Lauren's love, Cyrus's work ethic, Dahlia's strength, and the 3 Ethans' friendship. I could go on, but my point is that we've all shared our own unique qualities and defined how our peers have grown up. And the traits I've articulated didn't just come from nowhere. They came from all of you. Not just my classmates, but everyone here today. Parents, grandparents, friends, neighbors. The conversations at dinner tables and advice during car rides. I come from examples set by people who I may never meet, but whose influences have united and shaped all of us. Graduating is scary because of everything we're leaving behind. I know I'll see many of you during breaks over the next few years, but just in case we don't see each other again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for helping me develop into who I am today. I'm so grateful for how you've been open and shared yourselves with me. I know some of our memories together may fade with time, but every one of you will always be with me as part of my personality and character. I still remember being 10 years old, terrified of the day I'd graduate. Today, I am still scared, but I know I'll be able to do it because I'm doing it alongside my best friends. My 10-year-old self who wanted to disappear into the crowd couldn't have imagined that leaving home would feel like this. Not an ending or a goodbye, but like finally being ready to move forward. I will miss all of you very much, but I'm so excited to keep watching you become whoever you're meant to be. Thank you.
With full approval of the faculty and the authority granted by the Board of Trustees, Jenny Kaufman, Ashley Satterthwaite will join me to award diplomas to the class of 2025. To recognize their service, faculty, trustees, and coaches who have a child graduating will assist in awarding the diploma.
Ella Susan Macaulay Adelsey. William Peyton Bartholomew Babcock. Julia Sanghi Bacante. Eliza Zeta Badner Lane. Lucas Case Beninoff. Madeline Pearson Blows. Grace Catherine Canfield. Ana Karen Chavez Orta. Olive May Clay. Miles Bremner Crow. Asha Ben Davis. Helen Anderson Desmond. Lily Pari Devon. Winder Thomas Dillenbach. Isabel Ann Dolan. Quinlan Leon Dry. Joriel Robert Fairbanks. Linnea Larry Farrell. Morgan Souterfield. Jackson Davis Friedland. Santiago Garcia. Benchia Edward Houses. Clara Ivy Hastings. Lauren Ann Healy. Cyrus Delaplane Nasco. Crystal Hong. John Emery Bliss Heisinga. Ethan Jack James. Henry Jackson Kaufman. Tomás Huertas Koutsouplakis. Henry Still Land. Colette Blue Lee. Cole Carl Litzenberg. Zoe Lynn Marquez. Gabriel Montoya. Adnan F. Mufla. Frederick Reese Murray. Liliana Putnam. Ethan James Quintana de Andres. Liliana Marie Reed. Dahlia Isabel Reyes Newell. Ethan Cruz Reeb-Sommer. Chloe June Roberts. Vincin Doma Rodo. Kieran Rowland. Inho Rue. Benjamin Reed Schubach. Lily Ellen Scott. Weston Boone Stump. Maya Higgins Vaziri. Andrea Claudia Voinescu. Oliver Greenleaf Winkler. Andrew William Young. Gordon Augustus Zing. Jasmine Zermenio.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the class of 2025.
Bravo!
Please welcome the upper school choir to sing For Good by Stephen Schwartz from the musical Wicked.
Hello, everybody. We'd like to dedicate this piece to the class of 2025, a group whose impact on these people and this place will last for good.
That people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes a sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? Because I knew you. I have been changed for good. It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by the wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? Because I knew you. Because I knew you. I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for. But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes a sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. Because I knew you. Because I knew you. Because I knew you. I have been changed for good.
The Valedictorian Book Award is given each year in honor of Mary and Ramsey Harris, lifelong learners, educators, and friends of Santa Fe Prep. Earning the distinction of valedictorian at Santa Fe Prep is no small feat. One has to succeed at a wide variety of challenging academic tasks over an extended period of time. This year's valedictorian, Zoe Marquez. Has distinguished herself in every class, every year, taking our most challenging courses while serving as a varsity athlete, peer mentor, and leader in our Girls in STEM TAP. Her teachers celebrate not only the high quality of her academic work, but even more notably, her genuine curiosity and commitment to applying the concepts she has learned. Congratulations, Zoe, on this admirable achievement. We wish you the best at Rice University next year.
Every summer, Every summer from kindergarten to middle school, my parents started off my break by handing me a math workbook. The instructions were pretty simple: finish the book by the first day of school. And so I would sit down at the kitchen table or lie down on the carpet in the living room and slowly work through the readings and problems in my book. For the first few weeks of each summer, I would grumble to myself while learning about addition or division or whatever new topic was being introduced. Waiting for my dino nuggets to be done heating up in the microwave, I would count the number of pages I had done and the number I had left, never quite satisfied with what I had finished so far because I was so unenthused about the fact that there was more to do. But despite this initial reluctance to spending time in the workbook each summer, by the time August rolled around, I was excited to work on the last few pages and felt prepared for the challenges of the next school year. This is, to an extent, how my experience at prep felt. New classes or large projects seemed daunting at first. As with my summer math books, I found that starting was the hardest part. The main difference, however, is that at prep, I wasn't on my own trying to find the motivation to do my work. Instead, I was able to look to my teachers for motivation. While self-discipline and accountability were still important, it was much easier to be excited about completing assignments or studying when I was able to see how much my teachers loved their work. Whether it was Dr. Lowe sharing a writing from a Zen master he found personally inspiring, or Ms. Comstock showing us her research in extraterrestrial impact structures, it was clear that each of the teachers here at Prep really cares about the material in their classes. Additionally, not once at my time at Prep did I ever feel like no one would notice if I just didn't do the work. In addition to caring about the materials and concepts they teach, the teachers here also make it clear how much they care for their students. With every project I have had across my time here at Prep, I was able to count on my teachers checking in and being there to bounce ideas off of, no matter how silly those ideas felt. Even when communication was difficult during online school, teachers still found ways to be there for us, such as Mrs. Prashant helping us navigate our Tempest baking project over Zoom. With this support, I felt more confident in the belief that my hard work would lead to a positive, even if not perfect, outcome, and thus I went from dreading the idea of putting in hard work to wholeheartedly trying my best because of the reassurance that the dedicated time would be worth it. As a result, I learned to embrace academic opportunities whenever possible and develop the confidence to seek out support and challenges in the future. It's through reflecting on the role that teachers here played in their students' successes that I realized the importance of external support to individual motivation and discipline. I am so grateful to my family for always providing me with that encouragement, and I'm so grateful to the Prep faculty and staff who have been a source of help and reassurance as we've grown up here. It is the wonderful support here that has inspired me to continue to seek out spaces and communities where everyone wants to see each other succeed as I transition into college and beyond. And while I wholeheartedly believe that the class of 2025 has spent the last year supporting each other as our teachers and families have, I think we also did something else. We have helped each other find a balance between hard work and more fun, relaxing time spent together. From extended talks in the IHM after school before it was time to go home and do homework, to enjoying weekend nights after spending the days working on problem sets or essays, work always allowed for play as well. As busy as we all were, we always made time to connect with each other. While school, important games, jobs, and college applications seemed overwhelming at times, there was always a comfort in knowing that there would be time to simply enjoy the group of people that comprised the senior class. It was this balance that I found with my peers that made me love hard work. And that's one of the key things to know about the class of 2025. Every one of the people graduating today works really hard, not just in academics, but also their passions, from athletics to theater to the beautiful art they create. I have no doubt that this will continue as we go on with the next phases of our lives, the same way I have no doubt that we will make sure to do more than just work. There will be so many successes, but also so many more moments of joy with friends going forward. Having these people beside me for the last few years has taught me so much about not only how to succeed in school, but also in life. Rather than completing a workbook, the goal I will be working towards in the coming years is finding supportive teachers and friends to help me create the balance that makes academic efforts enjoyable. So thank you to the class of 2025. Thank you to our families who love and support us. And thank you to everyone at Prep, especially our teachers who have encouraged our love for each other. The lessons learned here are truly invaluable, and it has been amazing to see how they are shaping the class of 2025 into an impressive group of students and community members. Thank you.
We've come to the final elements of today's ceremony. Faculty and staff, now's the time for you to file out and form a receiving line for our graduates. We'll give you just a moment to do that. Guests, I want to remind you that we will have a light reception in the dining hall immediately following the graduates' recessional. So please join us there. If you've never attended a Santa Fe Prep graduation, it concludes when the Elrington bell is rung 4 times by junior Nathan Santiago in the back of our quad. Graduates, it's time for you to stand and don your caps. Remember, you're tossing on the 4th ring. Let's give him a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2025. Okay, she grabbed it. Okay. Ashley grabbed it. She's going to get it. Loud clapping, loud clapping. Oh, okay. You want to